Namaskar, Jai Hind, and welcome back to National Security Live. Really, an event for pilgrimage and also for healthcare. It's a border with some serious security vulnerabilities which are really not visible at the first hand. It is a border that has actually it which has actually become increasingly important in India China strategic competition even. So it's actually a frontier which through which various transnational criminal networks can even operating or can potentially operate. A border we are going to discuss today whose future is closely connected with the changing politics or changing politico-economic situation of that small landlocked country called Nepal. So we are today discussing about India-Nepal border. And I want to introduce one central idea for today's episode. The India-Nepal border is not a hostile border. It's simply open border, but strategically I would like to borrow a word from my Lieutenant General that India-Nepal border is not a porous border, it's not a hostile border, but it is a fragile border. He carefully chose the word fragile. It's not fragile because India and Nepal are enemies. No, both are not enemies. It is fragile because of the openness of the nature of this border. It creates both enormous opportunities and also enormous vulnerabilities, right? And that is precisely what makes this border so important for India's national security. So before beginning, I would like to request everyone kindly to switch into 1.5x for better experience. And in all of my live videos, kindly watch them or listen to them in 1.5x for better experiments. Also, I would like to make a disclaimer that I don't edit my videos. You may feel it very boring, but I can assure you, if you watch my videos, my lectures, you will get away with some knowledge if you just listen to my words carefully, and if you even ask questions on the comment box, I will be happy to answer you. So it's not just as exciting as any reel, but it's actually full of knowledge, and I I take a lot more time to prepare my notes while delivering such live lectures. So let's move ahead with today's lecture. So uh, India shares a land boundary with Nepal with five Indian states involving from Uttarakhand, there's Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, and Sikkim. I'm repeating again, it is Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, and Sikkim. India Ministry of Home Affairs Border Management Division, it actually presently lists India Nepal border as approximately 1751, that is 1751 kilometer according to Ministry of Home Affairs. But various sources, the other sources which are not governmental sources, which some measurements can vary, and the figure can be around 1850, even 1880 kilometers too, according to various perspective also. This is also a matter of various controversy too. So let's go with the official figure, that is 1751 kilometer. So the point is not here the simple numbers. The important point is the characteristic of this boundary. Unlike India-Pakistan border, that is actually this border, unlike India-Pakistan or Indo-China border, it is not a militarized frontier. Unlike much of India-Bangladesh border, even It is not defined by continuous physical fence. It is not fully fenced border, and there is even so far no requirement of such a hardcore fencing mechanism. Instead, India and Nepal operate in one of the world's most unusual open border arrangements. We both have open border arrangements. This brings to the heart of today's lecture, the open border arrangements. What does actually open border mean? The India-Nepal relationship actually is deeply rooted in the history, culture, and people to people connection of excuse me excuse me of India and Nepalese people. Let's say back in 1950 Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which forms an important part of bilateral border framework with Nepal. This treaty actually recognizes peace and friendship, and also provides reciprocal arrangements concerning the residence, movement, trade, and economic participations. So India itself describes the relationships as excuse me, I'm having a really bad cold, sorry. India itself describes the relationship between India and Nepal as being characteristic by it's India even openly says it's an open border. It's deeply rooted in people to people context, with kingship, with culture, even civilizational connections. Therefore, when we say that it is open border, we shouldn't automatically understand that this is just a unguarded border. There is actually major difference there. An open border can still have border security. We have SSB in the Indo-Nepal border. We have intelligence networks operating in that frontier. We have checkposts, we have patrols, even immigrations and custom mechanisms. We do have surveillance and joint coordination mechanisms with Nepalese authorities. The actual challenge is that the security architecture must operate here without destroying the very openness that makes India-Nepal relations unique. This is very important. Unlike other borders like in let's say Indo-Pakistan border or Indo-Bangladesh border, which are properly fenced, or most of the parts are properly fenced, and where security forces need to operate in a closed boundary. But here in the case of Indo-Nepal relations, security forces need to operate in an open boundary. So this openness sometimes creates some vulnerabilities. And this is why I call it a fragile border, or my mentor even says it a fragile border. I want to make one distinction very clear. I would describe the India-Nepal border as open but strategically fragile border. It is not necessarily a porous as character as that of Indo-Pakistan border, or maybe historically porous border of Indo-Bangladesh border. I would, with the footstep of my mentor, I would like to describe it as Indo Nepal border as actually a strategically fragile border. So its openness creates vulnerability, as we have said, which can lead to smuggling. There have been a lot more smuggling activities through this border. There is narcotic trafficking, even human trafficking. We have heard of Nepalese girls and Nepalese women is being trafficked to India, and then to other countries also. There has been illegal movement of goods, even counterfeit currency networks along the border, and various other transnational criminal activities. Also unauthorized border crossing, or border occupation, even by small scale, even by individuals, and intelligence activity by various other states other than Nepal, various states, various other neighboring states, or maybe various other states who is doing intelligence and counter-intelligence activities against India. They operate even through Nepal border. There are also potential movement of terrorist or even terrorist facilitators. These are actually proven facts. India, we own security framework. We recognize that the open border can be actually misused by criminals and antisocial elements. We over and over highlighting this, while we are also emphasizing the importance of preserving the legitimate open movement between people to people. Therefore, here the challenge is not that we need to close the border. The challenge is how to secure an open border. And for security forces, this is very difficult to operate in an open border, to provide security in an open border environment. And this is a complete different security philosophy than we have found in case of so far Indo-Bangladesh border, Indo-Myanmar border, and even as we have studied with Indo-Bhutan border. Coming to the Sashastra Sima Bal, the border guarding force of India and Nepal, also India and Bhutan. Here, SSB is India's front line in Indo-Nepal border. It is primary Indian border guarding force along as I mentioned, India-Nepal frontier. The SSB or Sashastra Sima Bal, it functions border patrolling, surveillance, even intelligence gathering, checking various suspicious moments, even anti-smuggling operations, also coordination with state police, even detection of various criminal networks, and definitely regular border observation and maintaining security without completely disrupting the nature of the border, that is without disrupting the continuous openness of the border, and also coordinating with Nepalese security agencies. Sorry. Here, government records have specifically identified SSB deployment along Indo-Nepal border and its use of intelligence networks, patrols, and border observations force. That is, SSB is officially mandated to protect this border with the principle of one border, one force policy. But SSB cannot solve this problem alone because this is an open border, as we have said. Border security requires SSB as first line of defense, of course. There need to be state police, even intelligence agencies, customs, immigrations, also Nepalese security forces coordination, help from Nepalese security forces, and above all, here Indo-Nepal cooperation, the people-to-people cooperation, government-to-government cooperation, administration-to-administration cooperation at the macro and micro level is very important. And for that, let's zoom into Nepal's security architecture. We have studied India's primary security architecture, that is first line of defense, which is SSB, that is Sashastra Sima Bal. Now let's zoom into Nepal's security architecture. On the Nepali side, actually, the principal force responsible for border security is Armed Police Force (APF), Armed Police Force Nepal, APFN, we can say, or we can say it's APF. The APF works actually alongside Nepal Police and other institutions of Nepali state. And India and Nepal have actually developed institutional mechanisms for cooperation in the matter of security. The Joint Working Group, or JWG, on border management has become particularly important here. As we see that the 13th JWG, that is Joint Working Group meeting, it was held in 2025 with Both the countries discussed about various factors like trans-border criminal activities, about border infrastructure, integrated checkposts, even about roads, of about railway connectivity, even capacity building among the forces, about border pillars, disaster management, which is very important because Nepal, the terrain of Nepal, the geography of Nepal is very vulnerable to various kind of disasters. We have seen Nepal has gone through various forms of earthquake. Even while we are broadcasting this lecture yesterday, at present time we have seen some kind of, I will not say flash flood, but sudden flood appeared in Nepal due to some activities or some activities in the dam in Tibet, and there had been devastating floods in a sudden previous night. This is an incident of previous night. So we need to have various coordination and capacity building in disaster management. We need even mutual legal assistance for to nab the fugitives or to nab the criminals who take shelter in each other's country. So we actually need coordination between border districts, whichever district is there on the Indian side and the other side. At the micro level, we actually need coordination between border districts. As of this month, border security and smuggling again featured prominently in India, Nepal's discussions, as Times of India recently quoted. This actually shows something very important. The India-Nepal border is actually increasingly being treated as a shared security management problem rather than just merely a map. In some in some states we have seen that, particularly in let's say India-Pakistan border, the border responsibility directly comes to the BSF and even to the army and JK police and Rajasthan police, Punjab police, etc., even Gujarat police too. But here in case of Indo-Pakistan border, we don't depend on Pakistan, we don't trust Pakistan, simple and black and white. But this is not the same case with India-Nepal border. Here we share security management problems. Here we guard our border with the help of Nepalese authorities. So we together guard our borders. We have secured mutual security assistance. So that is how we are coordinating with Nepalese forces. What that I have mentioned, the armed police force of Nepal or APF of Nepal, and SSB is coordinating. Even state police, various state police of India and APF is also coordinating. Now, if we go ahead with the human face of the border, we have discussed the security architecture or organizational structure of security of Indo-Nepal border on the both sides, the Indian side and Nepal side. Let's go into the human face of this border. Moving away from security actually, if we only talk about terrorism, smuggling, and even about China, we miss actually half of the story of Indo-Nepal border, because Indo-Nepal border is more about a human border, because families live on the both sides of the border. People walk around the border. People do business on the both sides. People marry across the border. People trade across the border. Even people do study across the border. In an astonishing example, most of Nepalese prime ministers have even studied in India, including the present Balensa, Honorable Balensa, Prime Minister of Nepal. He was also studying here in India, probably in Visveswara Technological University. He did MTech from here or like that. And previous PMs also studied, or most of the intellectuals of Nepal were actually studied in India. Even the caretaker prime minister or president, that honorable lady, I forgot her name. She was Supreme Court Chief Justice or Supreme Court Judge probably. Yeah, I think Chief Justice, and she also did study in India. So people study across the border, people travel across the border. That is what is often described through the expression as Roti-Beti ka rishta. It is often said in Indo-Nepal relations, the Roti-Beti ka rishta. The relationship is not simply just diplomatic, or it's just not simply a security relation. It's entirely social, it's entirely cultural, familial, and it's most importantly a civilizational relation. And this is the one reason why excessive security, why excessive presence of security on the border could itself create a social and political problem. Even if we, as we are discussing human factor, if we go with the Gorkha connection, here one of the strongest examples of this human relationship, or this people to people relationship, is a connection between Nepal's Gorkha community with India. We most of us, we know the history of Gorkha military service in India. It goes back to generations. Gorkha soldiers have served with distinctions in Indian army, and this relationship has actually created an extraordinary military and social breeze between these two countries. However, here we need to make an important distinction. There are even Indian Gorkhas who are actually Indian citizens. They reside in some parts of West Bengal, in around Darjeeling district, also in Sikkim, and even in some parts of West Uttar Pradesh also, and even in other states also. These are Indian Gorkhas. However, Nepali citizens who are Nepali Gorkhas, they have also historically been served or are still serving in the Indian army. So both are part of wider Gorkha military tradition. They speak the similar, or the, not similar, they speak the same language actually. At present, recruitment of Nepali Gorkhas into Indian army, even though due to some political reasons, it remains a sensitive issue. Following, there are some new retirement system, and Agnipath scheme. Even I got a scrolling news here. Due to Agnipath scheme, there are a lot more sensitive talks going on. Uh, the Gorkha people actually like the old system of recruitment, because it was more secured from a career point of view. Anyway, uh, we are not going deep into that. So Gorkha connection as a whole, as we have highlighted, it shouldn't merely be treated a military history. It's also a people to people security breeze. As we have said, Gorkha people live on the both side of border, on the Nepal side of border, also on West Bengal, that is in most of the people in Darjeeling districts, also in Sikkim, also in some parts of Uttar Pradesh, and even other neighboring states also. So that is what people to people relations, right? So when people to people relations develop, or if they, since there is a civilizational relation, there is even economic bridge, right? This border also supports enormous economic interaction. Nepal is heavily connected with India for trade, for transit, for energy, employment, tourism, even infrastructure, right? And as we have mentioned, education, investment, and healthcare. We can say that Nepalese healthcare system, particularly the ophthalmology or the eye hospital, or well, the ophthalmologists are really good in Nepal, and it's relatively less expensive than in India. People from eastern part of India, particularly even from northeast, they travel to Nepal for eye surgeries. If anyone having problem, even they move to Nepal. Why? Because they find it's relatively cost effective, and cost very good, what can I say, very good service, even though it's very cost effective, very good healthcare facility in Nepal, in terms of ophthalmology or in terms of eye surgery, etc., at very affordable cost, even than that of India. This I have said with my practical experience. Even my family members travel to Nepal for their eye problems, even for eye surgeries, etc. So this is one dimensions, the healthcare. For education, most of Nepali people, Nepali students travel towards India, and so India has consistently emphasized on the importance of connectivity and development cooperation with Nepal, which is actually official. The whenever there is a meeting between Indian government officials and Nepalese government official, whether at the diplomatic level or at the administrative level or maybe at the political level, there has always been emphasis on development, on cooperations, and most importantly, the mutual development factor is much highlighted. This means what? This means Indo-Nepal border is not just a security boundary. It's a human factor, it's a human boundary, as we have discussed, and an economic corridor. So this multiple character of this border, we must remember it. It's not like Indo-Bangladesh or Indo-Bhutan border, or even it is not entirely like Indo-Pakistan border. This is a completely human border. It's not just a security boundary. It's a civilizational border, and it's an economic corridor, and there is human to human relation. So, lastly, I would like to go, as we have discussed about medical tourism and healthcare connection, I would like to go a bit more. I want to say some more words with it on the part one of this lecture. I would like to say that people living in border regions, they actually cross to neighboring country, to Nepal for special medical treatments, as I have said, eye care mostly, the ophthalmological services, hospital, even various other diagnosis and emergency treatment also. This is because of good service, good healthcare service at very reasonable cost. So international borders, as we have seen in the case of Indo-Nepal border, it's do not correspond to social and economic boundaries also. The security challenge is therefore to facilitate the legitimate movement while actually identifying the illegitimate movements or illegitimate activities. In Indo Nepal border, yes, the security problem is about illegitimate activities, let's say the organized gang network activities, human trafficking, or other types of trafficking activities that the forces need to focus on more, and it is their very difficult duty to execute such tasks in an open border. So I think with the healthcare, I would like to end the part one of Indo-Nepal border in National Security Live episode 18. From tomorrow in part 2, we will discuss from as my note says, I will go with the pilgrimage and civilizational connectivity between India Nepal border. So thank you for watching. Also, they are learner of all the sections who have been watching, who have been benefiting from our videos. I would like to request, if possible, kindly to contribute us with some Guru Dakshina, whatever way you may can, through Google Pay, through GPay actually, and Phone Pay, for the sustenance of this Gyanonema School channel. Numbers are here scrolling on your screen. These numbers are GPay number and Phone Pay numbers. Also here I would like to thank everyone who has actually contributed us. We are grateful to everyone who have contributed to us. Thank you. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I would like to again make it clear that our videos are unfiltered, raw and live. We don't edit videos. You may find it very boring, so I would like to request everyone to kindly to watch on 1.5x, but I can assure you that you will be going out after watching these videos with some knowledge on the topic. We are not just like some reels of Instagram. Here we care about knowledge and awareness. So this is National Security Live episode 18. We discussed in part 1 about Indo-Nepal border. In part 2, we will begin with the pilgrimage and other sections of Indo-Nepal relations. So that's all. Thank you. Jai Hind and Bande Mataram.